So I always love when something like this comes into the shop. We've got a Maestro Fuzz-Tone on the bench today. For those that don't know, Maestro is most notably known for building the FZ-1, producing the FZ-1 fuzz pedal. That's the first iteration of these Fuzz-Tone pedals, and I believe this one was one of the last, if not the last, fuzz pedal that Maestro came out with. The one differentiating factor between this Maestro version and the first two that were made, I believe, were that the first two were made with germanium transistors and actually had a completely different circuit topology, but this one is a silicon-based transistor, silicon transistor-based fuzz tone, and has a circuit that varies wildly from the first version. So we're going to take a look at how this circuit works and see if we can break down how exactly these controls are working. So we've got three controls on here. We've got volume, balance, and sustain all the way down here. And we've got this switch, fuzz 1 and fuzz 2, and essentially what this is like a filter, like with filter and without filter, and we'll be seeing what that looks like in a bit. Balance gives you it balances between the fuzz signal and your clean signal. So all the way at 10, you're getting all of your fuzz, and all the way at 0, you're getting your clean signal. And in the middle, you're getting both. And your sustain here kind of gives you, it basically controls how much of your input signal goes into the fuzz circuit. So at 0, it's like an input volume to the fuzz circuit itself. So at 0, you're actually not giving this fuzz circuit anything, and at 10 you're giving it basically your entire input signal. And on the side here we have our instrument and amplifier jacks. Caution for proper battery life, always unplug instrument cable when not in use. Thank you. Here we see our model FZ-1S. Our serial number has been kindly scratched off, and the Maestro division of CMI, Lincoln 1, Illinois. I assume that's where they built this thing. So opening the back side up wasn't too much of an issue. We have 4 screws that are holding the back up, 2 on this side and then 2 identical ones on the other side. And it was only held in with 2 screws, so this one only had 2 on it. But so it's lacking 2 screws. But all I had to do was take a screwdriver and just kind of try and pry it open from the back here, and we were able to get it off. So looking on the inside here, the first thing that I noticed was that this battery clip, the ground wire here for the battery clip was pretty taut against this the input jack here. So I don't know, it's a little too tight for my taste. Here we see that the back side of our controls here, we've got our DP/DT switch, and actually one whole side isn't being used, so it's only the one side that's being used there. So that's cool. So if you wanted to make your own, you just have to have an on-on toggle switch, and that's that. Here we see that we have a dual gang pot. Actually, you can see that there's kind of 2 pots stacked on each other, and that's allowing your balance control to work. So one of those pots is essentially controlling the output of your fuzz area of the circuit, and the other one is controlling the clean area of the circuit. And so they kind of work like this, right? So like this is 0 and this is 10, and one of them is at 0, one of them is at 10, and then you kind of sweep like this. So that's how that one's working, and then it's summed up on the circuit board over here. Speaking of the circuit board, we have one of these really old school through-hole types of boards. 6 total transistors on here. They're all silicon as predicted, and so we've got 2 domes here, and then we've got these more familiar types. 4 of these familiar types of transistors as well. We've got, let's see, what are these? RMC ceramic capacitors. They're rated for 100 volts here. There's some other ones here as well, but those are the ceramic capacitors. We've got carbon composite resistors here, carbon composition resistors. Okay, nothing too exciting about, oh, look at that, we've got a tropical fish cap. And just a quick note for those of you who are interested, we have our bypass arrangement here. We actually have the input signal going to the board as well as your bypass switch. This gray wire here is going to the output jack, and so when this thing is bypassed, it's essentially just closing the contact between these 2 lugs, and you're getting a straight true bypass going out of there. And then on this side, our orange wire over here comes from the volume pot, the wiper of the volume pot. And the volume pot's connected to the board. So you have your output of the circuit board going to the volume pot, and then the volume pot going here, and essentially your output is connected to the output of that wiper of the volume pot. And it looks like on the back of that transistor there we've got a 2N5088. And we can see in the back that one is also a 2N5088, as well as the one behind that yellow wire there. And these little dome guys here are 2N3565 transistors. It's a cool little package, huh? And just doing a quick Google search of the 3565 here, we see that we have an MPN low-level high-gain amplifier, diffused silicon. So it's a silicon transistor, made by New Jersey Semiconductor Products, Inc. And for the 5088, I found this by On Semiconductor. I found this NPN silicon amplifier transistor datasheet, so you can take a look at that as well.
So here we have the FZ-1S circuit schematic, and what I've done is I've blocked off different circuit sections so you can kind of see things a little better. So this first section in the upper left here, this one right here, is the input buffer stage. And basically what a buffer does is whatever comes in, so this input signal's coming in like this, whatever comes in comes out. And what this does for you is there's electrical characteristics that a buffer has that would make someone want to have just like, you know, a copycat signal coming in, and it has to do with resistance or input impedance. We don't have to get into that in this, that's a topic for another video, but just know that that's what you should expect. So the signal coming into this transistor here, Q1, should be the same exact signal that comes out in Q2. Okay, so that's your input buffer. The next stage here is kind of like a splitter. We have C2 over here, or rather C3 over here, and C2 down here. And what this is doing is it's splitting the signal this way and this way. And this one is going down to this bottom block here. Now this bottom block is the fuzz circuit. This one down here. This block right here is the fuzz circuit. And so your clean signal gets routed to the fuzz circuit. It also gets routed to this R1A over here. So we'll talk about this a little bit later, but just know that at this point we're splitting the signal. Let's go the route of the fuzz circuit here. So we see that there's a sustain knob here, and the sustain knob, if you go clockwise, let's see, this is clockwise. If you go clockwise, you have the maximum amount of signal right here. We have the maximum amount of signal going into our fuzz circuit. And when you do it counterclockwise, when you turn it counterclockwise, you're actually going to be at this point. Now you have some resistance here, but effectively you really have nothing going to this part of the circuit. So if your sustain is all the way down, basically you're not going to get any fuzz. So just something to know. When you have it right in the middle, you're going to have some fuzz, but not a lot. So you're going to go in, and this is your input cap here, and the first thing that we see is this transistor pair here, and this is what you call a cascading amplifier. So why is that called a cascading amplifier? Well, you have one amplifier here formed by Q3, and the output is taken here through this cap into the input of the next amplifier formed by Q4. And so Q4, it's actually really not just Q4, it's Q4, this R17 up here, we've got R16 down here, this resistor, and this is shunting to ground, so you're getting some negative feedback in the ground there. But anyway, this is what you call a cascading amplifier circuit. The output of that circuit goes to this way, and these transistors here are being used as diodes. So this little arrow that you see in the transistor is essentially what that is it's diode. And so if you were to get rid of this, you would essentially have something like this. And on this side, you would have something like this. And that's reminiscent of essentially clipping stages after amplifier designs. You can see that in the Boss DS1, basically in any hard clipping distortion device, you can see this type of clipping. But in this case, and at this time, they used, I guess in this model, they used transistors to do so. So that's the purpose of these two transistors. Now we get into this area. So over here, that signal coming out of that clipped region goes two ways. It goes to this filter here. This one is a pi filter, and it's a high pass filter. The reason why I can say that is because in the signal path we have a capacitor in both cases, right? Because here's one thing that it runs into, and then the output of that little network goes over here, and we have a capacitor over here. And so because the capacitor is in line with the signal, it's technically a high pass filter. And so it goes through this filter network, and the other way it goes is it kind of bypasses that filter network to this switch here. Now this is the fuzz switch we saw. This is position 1 up here. So in position 1 you're actually bypassing this filter, and in position 2 you are including the filter, and there's a huge difference in sound between position 1 and position 2, and you can definitely tell that it's the high pass nature of the filter, the pi filter that they're using here. So the output of this switch now goes to this balance knob, and this brings us back to what we were going to talk about earlier. So here's your balance knob down here. Now this is the fuzz. R1B is where the fuzz circuit is going to be, or the fuzz signal is going to be, and the other pot. So remember, this is a dual gang pot here. So the other pot is R1A. The other pot is R1A up here. And so when you go clockwise, essentially what's going to happen is this one is going to shunt down to ground. So you're going to have 0 clean signal. Remember, this is the clean signal here. So that's just going to go straight to ground. And then this signal, when you go clockwise, it's going to have all the fuzz you will ever need from the circuit. So so then this goes all the way up to here and gets summed up and goes to the output stage. Now when you're clockwise, or sorry, when you go counterclockwise rather, so remember we're talking about this, when you go counterclockwise, you're going the opposite direction of this arrow. So you're shunting that, and you're going to have 0 fuzz. You're going to have 0 fuzz come out of it. And over here on this one, when you go counterclockwise, you're going to go the opposite direction of this arrow. So you're going to be all the way up here. So you're going to have the maximum amount of clean signal coming through and into your output stage. So that's how it's that's how that dual gang pot works. And over here, so with this R7 and R23, you're basically summing both of those signals. You're adding your clean signal and you're adding your fuzz signal into this output stage, and your output's taken from the collector of the Q2 transistor here, and you're going through the volume pot and into the output, or out through the output. So that's how the FZ-1S circuit works. So I found out something here on the schematic. On the schematic, we have 2 N3391s as our Q1 and Q2. Also below, we'll see that our Q3 is a 3391 and our Q4 is a 3391. And if we go over to, I'll change this to blue, our Q5 is a 3392 and our Q6 is a 3392. And so those are actually different than what I saw inside of the actual pedal. In the pedal, these 3392s were actually the 3565s. Those were the low-level, high-gain amplifiers, and the 3391s were the 5088s. Those were the amplifier transistors.